Sam and Amber, when you drive around Carlisle, you see the damage that is going on here. I want to put in perspective just how bad this flash flooding was here. Just beyond this tree line is that creek. It's 10 feet down in that embankment, and all of this was under several feet of water. Simply put, this evening, what's happening now is Kentuckians at their best, helping each other out, neighbors going door to door and seeing what they can do to help those who may be in more need than they are with the devastation. Now you can see now the water is flooding a trailer park. We've got crews here filling sandbags at that erosion site here, trying to keep more water from coming in here. Neighbors here are telling me they just had moments to grab what they could, get in their vehicles and get out of here, or some saying they had to wade through knee up to waist deep water. Kentucky, just the latest of a handful of states now to issue a statewide mask mandate for schools, following suit of states like New Jersey and Illinois, who issued similar mandates last week. Prior to this order, just around 48 of the state's 171 school districts had issued a requirement for masks in school. Neighbors here say that they heard a loud boom as those train cars slid off the side of the tracks. One neighbor telling me she looked out her window and saw utility poles falling to the ground and the wheels from one train car flying into the air. It's not uncommon for neighbors in Harrodsburg to hear a train whistle through town.
I'm sure 10 or 15 a day.
But the sounds of one toppling over,
I heard a loud noise and I couldn't figure out what it was.
Took everyone by surprise.
It concerns me because we've got 3 kids here and you don't want anything to happen to them.
Sharon Price lives just feet away from the train tracks. Even though the derailed cars were just a few blocks from her, it's enough to make her worry it could happen right in her yard.
I have been concerned about that because it makes a lot of noise all the time, but at times it gets loud and I think, uh-oh, the train's derailing. And of course, it would probably hit us.
Thankfully, no homes were hit or injuries reported. This video from a funeral home security camera caught the moment the cars went off the rails.
Oh, wow. I'm wondering if it went around too fast or if it hit something on the tracks.
Drone video from Josh Krager shows the scope of the 7 cars derailed. Norfolk Southern says the cars that jumped the tracks were reported empty. Still, Sharon isn't so sure how much longer she'll stick around this close to the rails.
It makes me more anxious to move because I don't want it to injure any of us or damage our property.
Now, just to give you some perspective of how far more dangerous this situation could have been, there are several homes where I'm standing, some with their backyards going right up to the train tracks. And had this train fallen in the opposite direction, it really could have been a lot worse. The scope of the damage is still hard for Marty Day to process.
I have no words. We don't even have a vehicle to drive. We don't have a house.
We first met Marty Friday, just hours after flash flooding swamped the small town of Carlisle.
That there is my garage top.
His home has since been condemned. Everything inside ruined.
My foundation has shifted. The block underneath the house have fallen. My house is sitting like that in the middle. If you go down on this end, you could just about see the house leaning forward.
Marty says a call to his insurance was not helpful, getting told they won't cover the costs, but a $500 food voucher.
The most concern around here is why aren't the insurance companies paying? We're not in a flood zone. The flood zone is 40 yards on the other side of the railroad tracks, and we have nothing.
Demanding answers and pleading for help, Marty and many other neighbors came to see Governor Beshear after he toured the damage, voicing frustrations that they aren't getting help from insurance.
So that's why you buy insurance, and they need to be there for you in your time of need.
Yeah, they just upped my premium and I got the bill today.
And then they told you no.
Yeah.
That's really wrong. That's really wrong.
Beshear says he plans to be aggressive with getting max approval and aid from FEMA to help the families and businesses. Afterwards, he talked one-on-one with Marty and his wife, but Marty is still not sure they will get what they need.
To feel better, I cannot say I do until we get some kind of closure on it.
In the meantime, it's a devastatingly painful list of what-ifs that dozens of families are having to face.
It's a waiting game. That's all it is a waiting game.
In Nicholas County, Chad Hedrick, WKYT.
Yeah, this is afterwards.
For Vicki Easley, looking through these artifacts related to her uncle is like a personal history lesson.
It's his actual enlistment papers.
Documents from almost 80 years ago when Floyd Helton was killed on the USS Oklahoma during the attack on Pearl Harbor.
The first actual telegram that they got was December 20th, that he was missing in action. And then later they got another telegram saying that he was presumed killed.
For 8 decades, Floyd's family never had any closure for the 18-year-old who was from Somerset.
There's copies of letters that his mother wrote, an aunt on his mother's side, begging for information. One of them even wrote President Roosevelt, and she apologizes for taking up his valuable time.
No grave, no headstone. Vicki once took her mother, Floyd's sister, to the memorial in Oklahoma City, an emotional moment to see her brother's name etched in stone. But about a year ago, thanks to DNA testing, the Navy was able to identify Floyd's remains and give Vicki's mother the closure she and her family had longed for.
She was just beside herself. This is something that she had hoped for ever since they started talking about what they could possibly do with DNA.
It was a promise fulfilled to her father, who died not knowing where his son was.
He asked his 3 children that were the 3 siblings if anything ever came that they could bring his body home, that they try to do that.
Next weekend, it will be a true homecoming as Floyd is laid to rest right next to his dad, giving them all peace.
It really is coming home.
Chad Hedrick, WKYT. It truly was a powerful moment to witness tonight. For over 7 decades, Private Hardy's brother has desperately wanted to get his brother the recognition he deserved for making the ultimate sacrifice. Recently, his son contacted Congressman Andy Barr's office, who delivered a Purple Heart, Bronze Star, and other decorations today, proving to the Hardys that no matter how much time passes, Private Hardy's service and legacy will always be remembered. Donald Hardy will talk to you all day about his big brother, Gordon Lee, someone he admired and looked up to.
He always looked after me. He was about 1.5 years, 2 years older.
In 1945, Gordon was serving in the Army in World War II. The 18-year-old from Estill County was killed in action less than 3 weeks before Nazis surrendered and ended the war.
All we ever got from the Army was a letter from the chaplain that he'd been killed in the Purple Heart, and nothing else.
Nothing more honoring Gordon Lee's sacrifice to our country. Until 76 years later, when Donald says his grandson wanted to learn more about his great uncle and found what else Gordon had earned.
We want to present to you, Colonel, the medals that were earned by your brother in Germany. He earned these medals, and we wanted to present them to you on behalf of a grateful country and the American people. This is the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. Thank you very much.
Wednesday, Congressman Andy Barr surprised Donald with a series of medals and decorations in his brother's name, an emotional moment Donald has longed for.
He would have been, he'd been like me. He'd have been overwhelmed, I'm sure.
Congressman Barr says the process to get recognition for a soldier who died in action is more complicated than it should be, requiring documentation filed with the Department of Defense.
It's very, very important that we honor these heroes, these patriots to our country. It's important to the families themselves to have that recognition. But it's also important for our country that we never forget the service and the sacrifice of these heroes.
Honoring heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice and the families who miss them every day.
I appreciate Mr. Barr getting them for me, and we'll put them away with his other stuff.
In addition to the medals for your brother.
And Donald Hardy is a retired Army colonel. The other decorations include a combat badge, a good conduct medal, victory medal, and also for honorable service. And Donald also getting some recognition as well. So,
were you surprised by the emotion after 70-some years? His brother still has those feelings?
Absolutely. And to see him just get so teary-eyed and emotional the moment he realized what was going on. I mean, I have chills then and I have chills now just watching it back, and it was such a special moment, and I was honored to be there for it.